Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dark Wolf Gaming. And in today's episode we're going to continue with our Summoners War for Noobs series, and we're also going to continue from our previous video where we talked about Arena and the importance of doing Arena. So just to kind of recap, Arena is one of the most important things that you can do for your account and your overall progress and beefing your account up and making it stronger, right? And how is that? And that's by doing Arena, spending your wings, getting those glory points, using the glory points in the glory shop, buying the buildings, glory buildings, and using the stats from those glory buildings to be able to enhance your monsters. Okay? The glory buildings, if you recall, don't replace runes because they will never, ever, ever, ever equal runes. In fact, they are more equivalent, I think personally, to substats on runes. But instead of being something that you only get on one monster, they apply to all of your monsters, even freshly summoned monsters, level 1, unawakened, with 0 runes. They're still going to benefit from those buildings, and not just in Arena. You're not just going to see the stat increases that you get from these buildings in Arena, even though that's where you get your glory points from. You're going to see the stat increases in every aspect of the game. PvE, PvP, World Boss, you name it. Real-time Arena. Those stat increases are going to help you out, and tack those on to what you get from your runes. Your monsters can become almost invincible in whatever it is that you do. Okay, so one of the biggest questions though is if you look at some of those buildings, especially things like the Sky Tribe Totem, as you start to level it up, you notice just for me to go from level 4 to level 5, I mean, let's go back here and take a look at this, but just to go from level 4 to level 5 on the Sky Tribe Totem, okay, right now I'm actually level 3 on my Sky Tribe Totem, so to go from level 3 to level 4 is going to cost me a total of 840 points. 840 points. Eventually, as I get up there to go from 9 to 10, it costs a little over 2,000 points just to move one level. 2,000 points. Now, think about it like this for a second. If you're doing the bare minimum every day, let's say Temple of Wishes didn't land on, let's say Temple of Wishes didn't land on the Arena wings, and all it landed on, well, it didn't land on it at all, and all you got was your 10 wings that built up on you overnight, plus the 3 additional wings that you got from the mission building friendship. That's a total of 13 wings in the morning, right? And so those 13 wings can get you, let's say if all you're doing is fighting just once a day, and that's it, then 13 wings times, let's say if you did that, you're probably going to be in the challenger ranks, maybe depending on your account level and where you're at, you might be in the fighter ranks, but let's just average and say 13 or 3 points per win, and that comes out to about 39 points per day. And if we take that times 7 days, that's about 273 points, right? Does that make sense? 13 times 3 points is 39 times 7 is 273 points, and that's all you get. Okay? Now, let's say you got lucky and every day it landed on the wings, and you got 54 points per day there. that's 378 points that you could get at the end of the week. And, basically, depending on, how you play, if you're playing bare minimum, you could get anywhere from, let's see here, you could get anywhere from about, after you purchase your Devilmon for the week, which it comes out to 180 points right there, you could get anywhere from 100 to about 200 points left over, if we round it up, 100 to 200 points per week left over to put towards investing in your buildings. And if one building by itself, and there were several buildings, I think at least 10 buildings that we need to work on, the important ones. So we've got our 5 elemental sanctuaries, we've got Fallen Ancient here, Sky Tribe Totem, Crystal Altar, Ancient Sword, and the Guard Stone. So that's 5 other buildings. So grand total, you've got 10 buildings that you need to invest in. And with those 10 buildings, the total cost of getting a building up is enormous. I mean, just like I said, with the Sky Tribe Totem alone, you're talking just to move up one level is about 2,000 points. And if you got lucky on your wings and you on the Temple of Wishes and you got your 200 leftover points, it's going to take you about 10 weeks to build up that 2,000 points that you're going to need just to go one level on a building, a single building. Okay, so doing just a bare minimum, it obviously is not going to be enough. I mean, that's about 2.5 months right there just to move up. And you're talking to get all of your buildings leveled up completely is going to take you years, several, probably about, I think somebody did the math on it, and they figured probably about 5, I saw a Reddit post somewhere, I think they figured probably about 5 years or more just to get all those buildings leveled up at that pace. So what can we do to speed this up? How can we make things go a little bit faster for us and get those glory points a little bit quicker? And that's where having a routine comes into play. Number one, we gotta do a little bit of math here. So number one, we gotta figure that, okay, so when you log out for the evening and you go to bed, if you're like me and you get at least about 8 hours of sleep, then if you remember last video, we talked about it, that the arena wings will passively fill up on you within about 5 hours time. Okay, and you can't passively earn any more wings than that. So when you log back in, you're still going to have 10 wings. Okay, so 5 hours later, you're going to have 10 wings sitting there in the wing bank, and that's all you're going to be able to earn until you start spending wings, and then it will start to kind of slowly trickle back in again at the rate of 1 per every half hour, right? Now, so let's say you do the building friendship. So I do the Temple of Wishes. I do some other things first, but I do my Temple of Wishes. Then I do my buildings, okay, or building friendship mission, and there's some other things that I might do, but that gets me 13 total entries that I can use, or invitations. And then I'm going to go into the arena, and I'm going to use up all 13 of them. 18 if I got the 5 wings from Temple of Wishes, right? So I'm going to use them all up. And I might do that, just for example, I might do that in the morning while I'm getting my breakfast, eating my breakfast real quick, brushing my teeth. I'm going to knock out some of my missions and get some of my daily tasks accomplished so that I don't have to worry about it anymore, right? It's done for the day. Now, 5 hours later, we all know that those arena invitations are going to refresh. So 5 hours later is probably about the time that you might take a lunch break or something. So while I'm on my lunch break, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to knock out those 10 invitations that I just built up. Okay? So we're already around noon in the day or so. By the time I go home, another 5 hours later, then those arena invitations are going to be fully refreshed again, and that's another 10 invitations right there. So I'm going to knock those out. And by the time I go to bed, then I'm going to have, so it'll be another 5 hours later. By the time I go to bed, I'm going to have yet another 10 invitations to use. So grand total, I'm going to have approximately anywhere from 43 to 48 invitations. And at the rate of, if you do the math on that, at the rate of, let's just say, 48 invitations, well, you know what, let's be conservative. Let's just say 43 invitations times, let's say, 3 glory points per win. Maybe 4 if you're in the or if you are steadily in the fighter ranks. You can get up there quickly enough, then you can earn those 4 points per battle. But let's just say if you're a challenger, because this is for noobs, this is for new players, so I'm going to assume that you're going to be in the challenger ranks, which means you're going to be earning approximately 3 glory points per win, and that means you can earn a total of about 129, let's just round it up and say 130 glory points per day. Now, at that rate, you could purchase your Devilmon, like we said, that's 180 points, within about a day and a half. Maybe a little bit less than that, okay? At 4 glory points per day times 13, then that comes out to a total of about, not 13, times 43. So 43 glory points times 4 comes out to a total of 172. If you kind of pile up on it and get that extra 1 or 2 fights in there, let those build up before you go to bed within another hour or so. If you time it right, you could probably get yourself about 180 points and get your Devilmon on your first day, and the rest of the week is all you to sit there and earn your points. But even at the rate of 130 per day times, let's say, 7 days, it's about 910 points in a week, minus your Devilmon, right? Which leaves you with about 730 points left over. At that rate, 730 points to get 2,000 points is probably going to take you about, it's probably going to take you about 3 weeks, okay? That's a third of the time, less than a third of the time that it takes you to get 2,000 points doing just the minimum, everybody. Less than a third of the time, because 3 weeks times 3 is 9. Okay, so you get, within that 10th week, you're already starting on your next 2,000 points. You see what I'm saying? And again, that is assuming that you're just staying in the challenger ranks. If you're staying in the fighter ranks, okay, so 43 times 4 again was 172. Multiply that times 7 minus your 180 glory points for your Devilmon. That leaves you with about 1,024 points right there. 1,024 points, that'll take you 2 weeks. So in the same time frame, doing the bare minimum, just once a day, in the same time frame that it took you to get a glory or 2,000 glory points, you can get 2,000 glory point, you can get that 5 times. Okay, so you can do 2,000 glory points 5 times within the same time frame if you're staying only in the fighter ranks. I'm not even going to touch conqueror ranks because it's going to be a while before you guys ever move into that area, that part of the game. Okay, so it's going to take you a while. I personally, literally, just moved in the conqueror ranks myself. Now it's not going to reflect here because somebody just attacked me and took me down. But to get into conqueror ranks, you only need 1,500 points and rank 10,000 or less. Okay, rank 3,000 or rank 10,000 or higher. Rank 3,000 and higher would get me to Conqueror 2, and rank 1,000 and higher would get me to Conqueror 3. So 1,500 points or more. Obviously, you're going to have more than that if you're sitting at Conqueror 3, but 1,500 points, and we're talking arena points. Arena points are different than glory points. Glory points are the rewards that you get for fighting. Arena points you get whether you win or lose. Every time you win on an attack or win on a defense battle, you're going to get arena points, which affects your rank and what category you're in. Glory points you only get when you attack, and win or lose, you're going to get glory points. 1 point, if you remember last video, 1 point for a loss, and depending on where you're at, depending on your overall ranking category, be it Challenger, Fighter, Conqueror, or Guardian, is going to determine how many points you're going to get there. So 3, 4, or 5. Okay. I'm not going to touch beginner because beginner, which is only 2 points per win, is what you're going to see when you first start out. So maybe like your first few battles, and then you're going to be right out of beginner, and that's it. You're going to easily move into challenger and start getting those 3 points per fight. So I don't think I've ever, unless you haven't played for a while, you logged out and decided not to play again for a bit, it's tough to get back, to fall that far backwards. So, that's one of the things. Now, one of the other problems that a lot of people run into, is that just that right there. So as you start playing, as you start going along with your account, you're going to find pretty quickly that as you're fighting, you're going to come up against people who are going to kick your butt. Okay, so you're going to be going along. You first start doing arena. You got your basic startup set that Com2uS has gifted you with. You got your water fairy. You got your fire hellhound. Your wind vagabond, and maybe your I think it's your light elven archer. And you get your light Garuda as well. A little bit later on, you're going to get your water magic knight, which is going to help out a little bit. But you're going to have your starter team, okay? Once you get out of Garen Forest, and you get your starter team, and you're going to have some basic runes on them, probably some really crappy ones, and that's okay. They're not going to be that great, but you're going to start doing arena. And you're going to set up your defense, which your attack composition is going to probably be the exact same as your defense composition. And you're going to find that, again, like I said, you're going to start doing arena, and you're going to get your first few battles in. You might even be able to make it through the first page, which, you get your first 10 battles, and if you win them all, you get an additional 2 wings, and the page refreshes. So generally the first 10 wins, or the first 10 opponents that you're going to come up against in a matchup, are usually going to be fairly easy depending on your monsters and where you're at. They might be easy for you. If not, it won't take long, probably about halfway through, before you come up against opponents that you're going to be sitting there like, I can't beat this guy, and you're going to get defeated. And that's going to happen. So the question is, how do we, once you start to make your way up and get into the challenger ranks, how do we stay getting those easy fights? Because I would rather personally get 3 points per fight than 1. Yes, I prefer 4 points per fight, but if I get to a point where I'm starting to lose all of my fights because all of the opponents I'm coming up against are just too strong for me, then what do I do? So this is where farming comes into play. So we need to start doing that farming, right? And what farming is going to do for you, pretty simply put, is what we do is we set. Now, you're not going to see it on my defense because I'm not looking to really farm so much anymore. My goal was to see just how far I could get, and eventually see if I could, because I seem to always kind of finish about fighter 2, fighter 3, and I really wanted to push myself and see if I could finally get in the Conqueror ranks this week, and sure enough I did. And I showed myself that yes, I can do it. So if you look at my defense here, you'll notice that I have a pretty decent defense, right? Now if I wanted to, I could set what some people call a troll defense, meaning it's simple. It's like, oh gosh, that's easy. What we call a farming defense. And so what I might do is just eliminate these 3 guys to the right of my Water Fairy King that you see there, my Samath. So I'll pull out my Fire Desert Queen, my Rakan, my Ritesh. I'll pull all of them out and then hit complete, and it'll say, so watch right here where it's like complete. There are still empty slots. Are you sure you want to finish placing your defense? If I click yes, then all it's going to leave is the Water Fairy King, and it's going to make it very easy for people to go in there and be able to beat me, right? Now, I wish there was a way to cancel out of this, but there isn't. So I'm going to throw Sekhmet back in. Actually, you have to do the other guy first. They don't let you slide around on your defense. So there we go. So got my defense back, my original defense. So now that they're back in place, as people see that type of defense, a lot of people are going to be wary of it and not quite so willing to go after that defense, which is why I don't drop in points very easily. Okay? I've been sitting at around 15 something, 1490 something pretty much all day, and I haven't had a whole lot of attacks on my defense, which hasn't taken me down. But if I wanted to get to, so let's say I wanted to make it easier for me to be able to earn points without having to constantly spend crystals to refresh my my matchup list, right? So every time I turn around, I do this number. If I want to do it again, refresh now is going to cost me 10 crystals in order to find opponents. Now, if you're kind of lacking on crystals, you might not be able to do that. So how do you give yourself a good list of opponents that you can defeat? Set that farming, that troll defense. Okay? So what this does for you is, yes, it's going to knock down your arena points and thus your rank. It's going to drop your rank, but when your rank drops, it's going to mean that excuse me, it's going to mean that you're going to be partnered up against people that are going to be easier for you to beat, especially if you have a really good arena offense or even a decent one, even a so-so defense or a so-so offense. It's easier to win offensive fights than it is defensive fights. Okay, this is proven. So here's my routine. Here's kind of what I do. So I set my troll defense, and overnight people are going to knock me down, and I could probably see that. Go to my history tab and probably see where everybody and their brother has sat there and knocked me down. Okay, and Uh, yeah, I don't like that comp because it's got freaking Leo in it. I was thinking about doing a revenge, but Leo against double Lucians, or double Lucian against a Leo is never a good thing. So I'm gonna avoid that one. Um, but there are other options here, so just later on. But generally, what I do is the first thing I do is I I collect I collect my additional wings. So I got my 10 wings in the morning. I got my additional wings that I get from building friendship, and then potentially from the Temple of Wishes. Also, if there are any events going on, and I get points or wings from events, then generally you get that later in the day, which is fine. Then I'll just do those later on in the day. But you get your first set of wings built up there, and then I'll go in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to go under matchup, and I'm going to refresh my list. Why? Because if I made my way through my list the last time and I started getting into tougher opponents, then the chances are pretty good that when I come back, I'm still going to have those same tough opponents. So when I refresh the list, it's going to take me down to some weaker people that are going to be more of where I'm currently at. So the system doesn't automatically rank you down when you go into the arena. You got to refresh your list in order to get those opponents that are going to be more where you're at. Okay. Now, if I'm easily a fighter opponent or easily a fighter player based on my arena offense composition, and I let my farming defense drag me down into the challenger ranks, then I'm going to dust those guys. Now, if I come back on and I still got fighter ranked opponents, well, that the chances are good that I'm going to lose a fight and thus only get one glory point, right? So I'm going to refresh my list and get those challenger defenses that I want to go up against with my fighter offense, right? And I'm going to start whittling them down and knocking them out. But before I do that, so I refresh my list, before I even do that, before I spend those swords, I'm just going to refresh the list, and then I'm going to jump over to rivals, and I'm going to knock my rival battles out, right? Okay. Why? Well, they only get you 3 glory points. That's okay. Even if you're a Guardian ranked player earning, Conqueror Guardian ranked player earning 5 glory points per fight, you still want to do these first. Reason being, and we'll go back to this again, I know I've mentioned this probably in the first video, though, is that, let's go ahead and finish this real quick. Notice how easy it is to do these matches. I mean, once you start getting to be able to do about Giants B8, as you progress and move through the game, the rival matches at first are pretty easy. Then all of a sudden they start to get hard, and harder and harder and harder. And there was a time there where I couldn't beat Edmund Kellen or Kean. I mean, those two names are so much alike. But there was a time when I couldn't beat them with my team. But once I started being able to beat Summoners, Giants B8 thereabouts, then I could beat all these guys with the monsters that I had. I had enough good runes on my monsters to be able to dust them. Now they're so easy. I could take almost any monster composition and go in there and wipe them out. I could throw in a joke composition that does absolutely nothing to with monsters that have no synergy, nothing to help each other, and yet still beat these guys. So it's a easy +3 glory points for you. And the reason why even Guardian ranked players will do them first is because of the because of the crystals. Now think about this. So plus 2 crystals per fight, okay? And all of these first 7 refresh themselves within, I think it's within the first 12 to 24 hours or so. Okay? So the next day you come back, they'll all be sitting there ready for you to fight them again. If you only play once every 24 hours. But if you play more often than that, then some of them will pop back up within a couple of hours or so. Okay? So doing those fights is going to get you extra crystals, and those extra crystals can add up. So even at plus 2, let's not count Kellen and Kian because they only pop up every other day, every third day, respectively. And you do the math on this. So plus 2 crystals, so 2 crystals times 7 opponents or 7 rivals gets you a total of 14 crystals, times 7 days in a week is 98 crystals. So that's almost 100 crystals right there. And multiply that times, well, actually, you know what? Take the 14, multiply it times 30, because there's average of 30 days in a month, right? So that can get you 420 crystals. Now, if you count Kian and Kellen in there, with their every third day showing up, plus 3 crystals here and there, then that can get you upwards of about, I think, 450 crystals thereabouts. I didn't sit there and figure out all the math on it, but approximately 450 crystals. That's 450 free crystals that you get from doing those rival battles. Okay? So that's, if you're a free-to-play player, that's pretty good. Even as a pay-to-play player, an extra 450 free crystals adds up. Okay? And that's not all the crystals you get out of doing arena. Another good reason to do your arena is that depending on your rank, if you look at the weekly rewards, I mean, you could be sitting here at, I don't know, Challenger 3 and get an additional 30 crystals there at the end of the month or at the end of the week. And multiply that times 4 weeks. That's another 120 crystals right there. So, 450 plus 120, that's 570 crystals right there that you're getting every month. Over 500 free crystals, almost 600 if you get in the fighter ranks, possibly even more than that. So, definitely even more than that. So you're getting upwards of about 600 or more crystals every month from doing arena alone. I mean, look at this. If I finish even Conqueror 1 this week, Rush Hour, I might not be able to hang in there. But, I still feel good that I at least got my Conqueror 1 at some point during the week. And, if I can hang in there and make it through the week, that'll get me 150 crystals. Multiply 150 times 4 weeks. That's a grand total of 600 plus my 450 crystals. That's over 1,050 crystals that I get every month just from doing arena. So doing arena is also super, super important, everybody. So, so to go back to this and my routine, so I do all my rival battles first. And also another reason for doing rival battles first is that it resets their timer. If you wait all day, so let's say you wait all day and you do your rival battles last, now you got to wait for them all to refresh on their timer before you can do them again. Okay? So doing them throughout the day will help those timers to start to refresh. I mean, because look at this. You see the timer differences between them. Some of them are going to start in the next 22 minutes. One is the next quickest one's going to be almost another 5 hours from now. So, some of them refresh pretty quick. Some of them pretty slow, but generally within about 24 hours or so. And so that's another reason to do rival battles first is A, get those crystals and the easy glory points, and then B, hit that timer and get it to refresh. Okay, which could potentially mean, especially if some of them are refreshing less than 12 hours, means that you get to fight them twice in a day, so that's even more crystals. Okay, so once I'm done with my rival fights, then I'll go check my history, right? And I'll look at my history and see who's attacked me, and I'll go through and I'll look at the people that I think I might be able to easily defeat. And you can see where I have me revenge successes, and some guys I don't even bother with, just because I know with my arena offense that chances are pretty good, and I have to kind of know my team. Chances are pretty good I might not be able to beat these guys, and if I lose, then my ranking is going to drop, and I'm going to have to sit there and for every, basically the rule that I've kind of found is, and it's not exact, but I found almost, it seems that for every fight that I lose, it takes me 2 fights to get back up. So I wind up, so let's say I lose a fight to somebody, it'll drop me down X amount of points, and then if I win a fight, it won't bring me back up to exactly where I dropped off from. So it's going to take me another fight to get back up, and I'll go over where I was, but it's going to take me 2 fights to get back what I had, and then some. So you lose yourself 2 battles. It's probably going to take you about 3 battles to catch back up. So really about a battle and a half. Not exactly 2. It'll take about a battle and a half to be able to get back to where you're at. Okay? And so I'm very picky about who I'm battling. And then I'm going to go under my matchup. Now remember, I've already refreshed my list, and that way, if I do my revenges, I'm not ranking myself back up and then refreshing my list on my matchups. Because if I do that, the guys that I'm going to go up against in the matchup are going to wind up being too strong for me. So I always refresh my matchups if I've been sitting with the farming defense overnight, that is. I don't necessarily have to do this if I'm not with the farming defense, but if you're using a farming defense, which I highly recommend so that you can get more glory points when you're doing this by having easier fights, then, obviously, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do what I can for revenges with my already refreshed list of new players that I'm probably going to be able to beat. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go through my list. And I'm going to pick and choose, okay? I'm going to look for those fights, and I'm going to sit there and say, what are the chances that I can beat this guy? I'm going to analyze things. I'm going to look at this and say, okay, so I got my Devolution comp. I already know that, unfortunately, my Wind Griffin, Bernard here, is going to be slow. I think my Bernard's sitting at about 251 speed, thereabouts. And so the issue that I have with that is that, he was a little bit higher, but in order to eliminate the gap that I had between my 2 Lucians, I had a huge speed gap going on. And so to get rid of that gap, I had to sacrifice speed on Bernard in order to bring up those Lucians and get them back in sync so that now they're only 1 speed apart from each other. Now, the interesting thing is that even though they're 1 speed apart from each other, I still sometimes have units on the opposing team that will cut in between them. I'm not too savvy on the mechanics of how that happens. I just know that it can happen. So even if they're 1 point apart in terms of speed, one is 183 speed and one's 184 speed, and yet I still get cut between it's amazing when I see it happen. Blows my mind, but it does happen. So, again, I'm not an expert player. I'm not here to give you expert advice. I'm not here to explain things to the nth degree to you. I'm not here to give you a lowdown in the mechanics of Summoner's War. I'm here to explain things to you in the most basic way so that you, as a beginning player, can understand them. Okay, so don't expect me to know everything, but I do know enough to be able to help you out if you're just starting out. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I know, for instance, that by knowing my monsters, and this is what it's like to start getting into the Conqueror and Guardian ranks, is that you know your monsters, you know your capabilities, you kind of understand a little bit more about the opponents and their monsters and what they bring to the table, so that when you go up against them, you can decide whether you're going to sit there and take them on or walk away. Alright, so on this one, I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, Chirwu here has a speed lead of about 24%. Now, even if I replace, let's say I did this number, right, and I bring in my Samath, who has a 33% speed lead, the chances are pretty good, though, that this Orion, now the Orion, I've seen some Orions that will outspeed, because Orion's base speed is almost as 106. Chloe is 111, okay, which is 111 is the same base speed as Bernard here, or yeah, 111 base speed, okay, same base speed as Bernard, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I got 152 speed, not 151. But regardless, so now without the Chirwu there, the chances are pretty good that Chloe and that Orion may still outspeed my Bernard. Now because they got the Chirwu there, it tells me that they might not be super fast either, but they got the speed lead on them, so they could probably outspeed my Bernard. And if that's the case, then I'm going to lose the fight, because what's going to happen is Orion's going to go first. He's going to turn around and sit there. Well, Orion might not go first. Chloe would probably go first, cast her invincibility spell that also throws an immunity on for 2 turns. So invincibility for 1 and immunity for 2, which basically is going to stop me dead in my tracks right there. I'm not going to be able to do anything unless I got a really fast stripper. Okay, unless I got a stripper that can cut in between Chloe and the Orion. But chances are pretty good I won't be able to. So, then the Orion's going to go, and he's going to turn around and stun, most likely, my Lucian or something. Typically, that's the way it is, but he's RNG, so you never know who he's going to sit there and stun if he gets to land stuns, but normally they do. So he's going to land stuns. He's going to death break one of my monsters. He's probably going to sit there and strip the buffs that I got off my on my monsters, if they got any buffs, and then basically they're going to ruin my day. Theo's going to go in there and he's going to mop up my monsters, and I'm probably going to take out my Lucian, and then I'm going to be sitting there hating myself for even taking this team on. Okay, so I'm not going to take that guy on, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to look for something, maybe, no, Ariel, maybe. If it wasn't for this Camilla, I might be willing to take them on. If my double Lucian comp was fast enough and my Lucians had a little bit more attack on them, I would take this team on. But because I'm not. Okay, what's a good one? I'm going to keep scrolling through here. this Sierra does have a speed lead, which is going to speed up the Bernard, which is going to turn around and let her do her bombs, and Theo do his thing. I would be able to get away with it if she's got a 24% speed lead. I might be able to get away with it with this. So, we could try it and see what happens. I think I took this team on before and got my butt handed to me. But we can try it out and see what happens. Okay, chances are pretty good that Bernard's still too fast, and I'm just gonna hate myself. Okay, so yep, sure enough, their Bernard's pretty fast and almost took out my Bernard with that Theo. So I still kind of have a shot here. I'm going to reset their cooldowns. I'm going to turn around and bring in my first Lucian, who's going to take out that Sierra. And I'm going to hit that Theo. And now I'm going to mop up this Bernard. So I took a gamble, knowing what probably would happen, and sure enough, it did. But I was able to get lucky on it and last through and take the win. Okay, and look at that. That put me right back in the Conqueror with that one win. Okay, so I will constantly sit there, and if I don't see what I like or something that I think I might be able to win against, sometimes it's taking a chance. And you might take a step backward and then 2 steps forward, or maybe a step forward and 2 steps back. And it kind of, ebbs and flows, and it goes back and forth. But the whole moral of the story is that you need to sit there and take your monsters, or take your teams, figure out, what you can beat. Have a couple of different teams. Have a fast team, have a slow team, have a stripper team, have a a cleave team, whatever kind of team that you could come up with. I highly recommend, if you can do a double Lucian comp or something like that, if you get a hold of a double Lucian, use it. There are plenty of other options. We'll talk about what some of those options are in a later video, but especially in the beginning ranks, we'll give you some sample teams that you could possibly use to help you out, and then from there, at least get you started earning those glory points so that you can start getting your buildings. And we'll talk about what buildings to buy, in what order, and help you move along a little bit faster there. But you see the power of how that works. So what just to kind of recap again, so what I do, I have a routine. I log in every day. I get all my wings that I'm going to get for the morning from Temple of Wishes, from the mission, and then what built up overnight. Then I'm going to turn around and jump in the arena, and I'm going to hit I'm going to refresh my matchups. Then I'm going to hit my rival fights. Then I'm going to go down the next tab. So if you look here, so matchup, refresh, in order, rival fights, history, do my revenges, back up to matchups, go through until I've expended all my wings, and then I'm going to sit there and let it refresh on its own. And if I have to refresh my list, the biggest trick is using that farming defense and being picky and choosy about who you engage. Okay? Be picky and choosy. As you go along, you're going to kind of start to get a feel for what you're going to be able to beat and what you're not going to be able to beat, and what teams you're going to use. You're not always going to use the same team. You're going to have several teams set up, and each one's going to be for a different situation as you go along. But you're going to start to become very familiar with your teams and what they're capable of, and you're going to get a better feel for what you're going to run into depending on where you're at in the game, or you're at in the ranking. And you're going to be able to sit there and, like I said, pick and choose and maximize those glory points. Okay, we want you to win. The whole purpose is to win those fights. Okay, and if you don't win those fights, that's okay. You're still getting those glory points. Don't get timid like I did in the beginning. Don't get timid and back out and not fight because, well, you don't want to earn just 1 point. You know, I'd rather take 1 point than none. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and next video we will talk about some sample early arena teams and some strategies for your buildings, and start getting them pumped up and get you earning even more glory points and crystals, and feeling better, make you feel better about your account because you're going to be performing better. So again, this is Dark Wolf Gaming. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next video.